This is a Jetex 50. If one of these passed through your hands back then, you never got over it. What happened to the Jetex? That's this video, and the answer takes you somewhere nobody saw coming. A British company designed it. A Scottish chemist mixed its fuel. And a TV effects crew in England bolted it under Lady Penelope's pink Rolls-Royce. Same yellow box. Same $1.95 pellets. Different world. But first, picture the man who put this in your hands. Somebody had done their research before you ever walked through that door. Whether it was a father or a grandfather, he knew where to go. The hobby shop smelled like sawdust, machine oil, and old cardboard. The man behind the glass counter had been building models since before your father hit high school. He didn't push anything. He just leaned on the glass and talked. Ask him which engine ran best in a scale Stuka. You'd get 20 minutes without asking twice. When he reached for that yellow box, the Jetex 50, he set it down with both hands. Under $2. Inside, a solid fuel jet engine. Not a toy. Built by a British company called Wilmot Mansour. They'd spent the war years building rocket-assisted target drones for the military. When peace came, they turned that knowledge toward hobby shops. The fuel formula came from a chemist named Alex Hutchison at ICI in Scotland. His brief was simple: make it go whoosh, not bang. KeilKraft made the kits to match. A Hawker Hunter, a Supermarine Swift, a Douglas Skyray, and the Space Jet, a plane that never flew in any Air Force. Just a clean free-flight profile built for one purpose: speed. You spent a week building one at the kitchen table. Balsa was honest material, soft enough to score with a fingernail, light enough that you could feel when a part was off by a fraction. You knew that plane before it ever left the ground. Then, you took it to a field. You loaded the guanidine pellet. You threaded the igniter wick through a nozzle barely wider than a sewing needle. Get it wrong, and the engine fired sideways, or didn't fire at all. Or fired perfectly into a headwind and sent the whole thing straight back at your face. Get it right, and you held the plane steady in one hand, a match in the other. January air biting cold knuckles. The whole week of work living in that 1 second. 15 seconds. That's all you got. You couldn't steer it, just watched where the wind decided to take it. Sometimes it clipped a fence on the way back down. Sometimes it came back in pieces. But sometimes it flew exactly the way you'd pictured it at the kitchen table, straight and clean and gone. Nobody moved while it was up. Nobody talked. You watched until the motor cut and the plane found its own way back down. A lot of fathers and sons went to those fields together. One to launch, one to watch. When it flew right, you wanted a witness. If this is your kind of channel, consider subscribing so that you can see more videos like this. A lot of men remember those fields. But there was something about those pellets being loaded so casually. Something Wilmot Mansour hadn't printed on the box. Alex Hutchison's formula included up to 1% asbestos fiber, not as a heat shield. In the fuel itself, the asbestos stabilized the burn. Without it, the combustion wasn't consistent enough, so it went in. Official, factory approved, standard formulation. A children's product sold in Britain and America for over a decade. Millions of those pellets had passed through children's hands. Nobody was saying anything. The asbestos was in the exhaust stream too. Every launch, rising in that thin white trail. If you ever lit one of these, that smell never left you. Pear drops, sweet and faintly chemical. A fishiness underneath if the pellets were fresh out of the box. Let them sit in a drawer for a few years and they smelled closer to old butter. The guanidine losing its edge, and the next flight losing 6 feet of altitude it shouldn't have. That smell got into your clothes, your shed, the walls of the workshop. If you'd been flying that afternoon, everyone at the dinner table knew it when you walked in. The motor itself wasn't always forgiving. There was a spring-loaded end cap. If carbon residue from a previous run clogged the nozzle, that spring vented the pressure out the side. The spring didn't always hold. When it didn't, the motor let go. You found what was left. You went home. You built another one. Those kids in Ohio or Michigan or Texas loading motors into balsa kits on Saturday mornings, they had no idea. While they were flying the same yellow box in a field back home, a TV crew in Slough was bolting the exact same motor to Lady Penelope's Rolls-Royce. And it was working. Slough, 1964. AP Films worked out of a building that looked like it made machine parts. It didn't. Inside, they were building Thunderbirds. Derek Meddings was 33 years old, special effects director, and he had a problem. His vehicles looked fake when filmed in motion. The models were excellent, but a miniature moving too cleanly looks exactly like what it is: a toy on a wire. You can scale everything you can see, you can light it perfectly, but you can't fake the way real weight sits in the world. He needed those vehicles to disturb the world they moved through. What he reached for was a hobby shop engine. The crew dusted the miniature road surfaces with Fuller's Earth, a fine powder that reads exactly like road dust on camera. They bolted a Jetex 50 to the underside of each vehicle, nozzle pointing straight down. They pulled the model forward with fine wire. The Jetex fired. The Fuller's Earth lifted in a perfect cloud behind it. On camera, it was completely convincing. That was what made those vehicles feel like they existed in a real world. Every kid watching Thunderbirds that season had absolutely no idea, including the ones with a Jetex box at home. Ian Wingrove ran those motors on set through dozens of episodes. Years later, he said, "Oh yes, the Jetex motors. We used those in the models to kick up dust under the vehicles as they went along the road. We probably sent Jetex shares soaring at that time for the amount we used. Same motor, same pellets, same pair drop exhaust. Off-the-shelf hobby hardware running on the most watched children's show in Britain. The Thunderbird 1 vertical launches used Shermilly naval flares. Signal rockets built for the Royal Navy. Not something any hobby shops stocked. Jetex did the groundwork, the dust, the weight, the road. It ran through the whole series. City of Fire, The Imposters, the 1966 feature film Thunderbirds or Go. Captain Scarlet used the same technique for aircraft smoke effects. Anywhere a vehicle moved through a scene, city street, rough terrain, disaster zone, the Jetex was what made the world look real behind it. Wingrove wasn't joking about the share prices. On a vehicle-heavy episode, the crew burned through motors all day. For 4 years, a $1.95 hobby engine made Thunderbirds look unlike anything else on television. Derek Meddings didn't stop when the series ended. What he did next changed how Hollywood thought about practical effects. We'll get there. The change came without an announcement. One season, the motors ran clean. The exhaust smelled the way it always had. The next batch, something was off. Sharper, more acrid, less like pear drops. You try a different batch, tell yourself it was the humidity. The third flight told you otherwise. One day the shop didn't have them. Nobody told you they were going. They just weren't there anymore. Radio control arrived without ceremony. Nobody announced the free flight era was over. Nobody needed to. Before, you built something that flew on its own terms. The wind decided where it went. That was the deal. Now you flew it on yours. Total control, total command. Nobody wanted to watch the wind decide anymore. By 1956, Wilmot Mansour had sold the operation. D. Siebel and Company out of Erith, Kent took it over. By 1972, the factory in Erith had run the last motor off the line. In 1998, a Czech inventor named Dr. Jan Zygmunt tried to bring it back. He built a single-use cardboard motor, ceramic nozzle, cardboard body, and called it the Rapier. It matched the original Jetex thrust profiles almost exactly. For about a decade, original spec balsa planes were flying again. 60-year-old designs coming off the field one more time. Then pyrotechnic certification rules made it impossible for one person to keep the line going. The Rapier didn't fail. It got regulated out of existence. A Polish inventor named Piotr Tendera went through the full certification process. His Tendera motors, the direct successor to the Rapier, are available today through the Vintage Model Company. Some original spec balsa planes are still flying from plans that are 60 years old. And original Jetex 50 units in their yellow boxes still trade on eBay, in the hands of people who know exactly what they're holding. A few of those boxes still smell like pear drops when you open the lid. Derek Meddings left Thunderbirds in 1966. He took on the Bond franchise. Then he worked on Superman, the 1978 film. The job? Make a man fly, in a way that a cinema audience would accept without a second thought. The Academy gave him a Special Achievement Award for it. The man who started by bolting little hobby engines to toy cars in a Slough warehouse went on to win Hollywood's highest technical honor. He used the Jetex 50 to fake television's vision of the future. Then he faked Superman flying. The Jetex 50 didn't fail. It belonged to a specific moment. A time when you handed a kid a solid-fuel jet engine and a book of matches, and called that a Saturday. The jet age made it possible. The world that came after had other ideas. But for 15 seconds, while the hiss built and the plane climbed and the exhaust trail dissolved into open sky, it was everything. There's probably a man in that memory somewhere. Someone who drove you to that field. Who showed you how to thread the wick. Who stood back and watched without a word when it flew right. A lot of those men are gone now. Most of them are. But the thing they left, the patience it took, the skill it built, the 15 seconds it gave, that doesn't go in a box. That part stayed. If a Jetex 50 passed through your life, drop it in the comments. Say who put it there. And if you just found out what was underneath Lady Penelope's car, that counts too.